Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today recapping our Week 4 victory versus the Detroit Lions. And you know what this reminds me of? Coaching football. I always, when we had seasons where we had a really good team, inevitably in high school you're going to play some bad teams. And I always would have to tell players, and it would almost never work. You get, maybe 1 out of 10 that would listen. You always tell players, like, don't get too excited when you beating up on bad competition. Like, you should be able to execute everything you want to do against bad competition. And that's good. But let's not act like you won a Super Bowl. We hear that before in the NFL where some teams celebrate over small things. It's about the ultimate goal. And even though you say it over and over, you got players that want to flex. They want to beat their chest. They want to do all that. They want to talk all this stuff when they beating up on a bad opponent. And then when they playing real competition, that's when it's quiet, or they throwing their helmet, or they upset. Because now, all of a sudden, I want to be upset because I'm not doing well. And those are the front-running feelings that we naturally have. I've said this about the Bears many times. All of you who are returning listeners, you know. It's about how you win. And not only the fact that we won against the Detroit Lions, but, let's look at the fact that they almost came back. They were this close, and I'm using a close fingers to say they were that close to making it 21-24. Then the onus would have been back on our offense to perform with our back, not back against the wall, but the pressure on us. And if we didn't, then the Lions would have very likely had a shot at winning the game on the last drive. And so that's without even taking into account the 3 times that they were in the red zone and ended up botching it. Now, I give credit to our defense for making some of those plays. Let's not act like there's no credit to be given, but let's not also act as if all the credit goes to defense. That's when you had the stats. Oh, you saw this interception, or you saw this many, whatever. But you're not actually looking at the actual game. Because, yes, we didn't allow those points. And, yeah, we got up, 14-0, whatever. But you have to really look into the actual game to see that it could have very easily went the other way. You get the bumbled snap that ends up being a turnover. Alec Ogletree, again, good credit to him for skying up, and he in his 30s, ain't he? Skying up and tipping that pass because Swift definitely beat his man. He was open, and obviously they get the fumble on Jared Goff, which was a good play as well. But again, it doesn't tell you the full story when you look at the numbers, because especially if they even converted one of those red zone trips, you're talking about a different game. And so credit to the Bears for making that play, but you also have to acknowledge the Bears defense that they drove down the field on them. Run in, pass. And they don't have many pass weapons. And honestly, most of the plays that were made was because Goff messed up. There weren't too many plays, Ogletree and a couple others, where we forced the hand. Most of those plays is where Goff just didn't put the ball where it needed to be. And so we were able to make a play on it. And Goff still, even with that, he looked pretty decent today. So I don't think this is a case of we steamrolled them. Obviously we didn't. And we can say they don't have a lot of talent, but compared to what we should have did to them, there's a lot to look at because, I think Campbell has them pretty disciplined. They didn't have any penalties before we had 5, and obviously they playing hard. And we know they played the Ravens close. And pretty much every game this year, they were still playing. It's not like they're just absolutely hapless. And so they came in with that, but for what the talent difference was, we should have been able to do more. And the offense, credit to them, we were able to do some things to put us in position, but the defense, you know, there were some questions there. But again, it's nothing different. A lot of the issues comes when you don't apply the pressure, even though we were a little better, and this is a banged up offensive line, but we were a little better applying the pressure, but there's too many plays where we aren't making the quarterback uncomfortable and he's able to make a decision. And then, of course, as we always talk about with our linebackers in our secondary, as far as the run game, is not a whole lot of support. I mean, once you get past the big boys up front, it can be an issue. And they didn't completely kill us, but their run game was steady enough to complete what they wanted to get done. And so that was one of the things that made it a little hard to stop some of their drives down the field. And then offensively, which is the main thing, I will say this. One person I saw mention, and I agree when I read it. I don't know if I would have made this call, but I agree when I read it. And that's that you might want to have Justin Fields play in this game to get him some confidence, like a get-right game, as they say. And I do think, as I've said many times, confidence is important. I do think Justin Fields, even though towards the end, it wasn't exactly perfect, but he had a lot of plays. He did a lot of things that probably gave him some confidence. Now, again, who are you doing that against? Especially that defense. You got a number of starters out. That's some of their best players. Obviously, their top corners out. But still, making those plays, it's going to feel good. It's going to help the confidence. I'm not worried about the Detroit Lions. I'm worried about playing him against these good teams and what's going to happen when he's constantly under pressure or under duress and he starts to formulate bad habits. That's the stuff that we're worried about. But we saw pretty much glimpses of what we knew he could do. Good ball placement, good arm strength, a lot of speed to bail out a play when it's breaking down, the ability to improvise. We saw all that. Decent pocket awareness, but that's what we saw. But that's because you were going up against a team that allowed the rest of our offense to allow him to display that, because we could get separation against these guys. We can hold up pass protection against these guys. We can have a consistent enough run game against these guys. But can we do that against better competition? That's always the question. That's always been the question. If you haven't watched my episode talking about the 2018 season, watch that. The numbers bear it out. Against competition, we just don't do as well. And so going forward, will we be able to see some of those things? I still don't believe so. And I'm going to sit back and watch. I'm going to see what happens. But I don't know if I feel comfortable letting Justin Fields get out there towards the wolves, so to speak, as we go up against better teams, which Myles Garrett's one of the best pass rushers, but there's still some fronts and some defenses that's better than theirs. And we've seen so far with the blitzes, our offensive lineup, they do not pick it up well. They don't understand it well. And there's some free shots on Justin Fields. And then there's still some adjustment to seeing the defense pre-snap. I think a lot of times it's just snap and go and let me see what's happening. And that reaction is just slow. And so if the play's not perfect, if the pocket's not clean, all that, then it's going to end up in a bad result. Obviously, when you got a team where you can take your time, you can read through the progressions. But most of the time when you're going against a good defense, you have to be able to pre-snap, start determining some things. And he's not there yet. And so I Overall, I don't know if I learned anything. I don't know if I learned anything about us. This is essentially all the same stuff I've seen from the Bears previously. So we'll see going forward. More than likely, they might end up staying with Justin Fields. I still don't know if that's the right move, but we'll see. I want to hear from y'all. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you thought. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.